The book of Genesis reports that certain people lived for hundreds of years. The most famous of these is Methuselah, who's said to have lived 969 years. Now, that's very different from the ordinary human experience that all of us are used to. And so how do we make sense out of these long lifespans reported in the book of Genesis? Well, let's ask some questions to help clarify things. First of all, who were these people? Adam and Eve had two sons. Genesis chapter 4 describes the lineage of their older son Cain, while Genesis chapter 5 tells us about the descendants of their younger son Seth. Now, the contrast between the ungodly line of Cain and the godly line of Seth sets up the basic conflict that emerges before the flood in Genesis chapter 6. Now, the ungodly line of Cain, the characteristics of Cain and his descendants, such as violence, came to predominate the human experience, whereas the godly line of Seth culminated in the life of Noah, who was the last righteous person to live on the earth before the flood. And so that sets the stage for our second question: did people actually live that long? What stands out immediately in Genesis chapter 5 is how long Seth's descendants lived, most of them over 900 years. Now, this is so different from the ordinary human experience as recorded in human history that scholars have tried to figure out if there's a way to reinterpret these numbers to make sense out of them. For example, some have suggested that units of time have changed their meaning. But there's really no reconstruction of these references that yields a consistently convincing result. It appears from the text itself that these lifespans are meant to be taken literally. And then after the flood, the Bible gives us considerably shorter lifespans for human life. And so that really sets up our next question, and that is, what accounts for these long lives? There are plenty of theories. One suggestion is that the Earth's climate changed after the flood. And this suggestion posits that before the flood, the Earth was surrounded by a canopy of water vapor, and this continual cloud cover helped to shield the Earth from the harmful effects of cosmic radiation, leading to longer life. And this would have then deteriorated after the flood was over, so people were exposed to the cosmic radiation and its effect upon the gene pool. Another suggestion is that just simply from the time that people were first created by God and the gene pool was perfect, the DNA was perfect, that over successive generations that the gene pool deteriorated over time, as it will, and that led people to be more and more susceptible to disease and aging over time. Now, again, there are plenty of theories, and none of them can ever be proven or disproven. We'll just probably never know what these long lives are really all about. Now, there's one final question that's related to this, and that is, did God set a time limit on human lifespan? Genesis chapter 6, verse 3 says, "Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. Does this mean that God reduced the ordinary span of human life as a judgment against human beings for their wickedness? Is God saying that, hey, nobody's ever going to live a long, long time again? Well, it could be. 120 years seems to be about the maximum capacity of how long humans could live. People often live approaching 120 years. I don't remember ever seeing anybody living longer than that. Now, Psalm 90, verse 10, portrays the ordinary human lifespan as 70 to 80 years. So maybe that's ordinary, and 120 years is the absolute max that people are going to be able to live. Or is it possible that when verse 3, that what it means in verse 3 is that God is saying that he's giving 120 more years for people to repent of their wickedness before he sends the flood? Well, both of those interpretations are consistent with the text, and both of them are consistent with what happens in the story next. Now, we can't really know why people lived so long in Genesis chapter 5. The point of Genesis 4 and 5 and 6 is to contrast the godly line of Seth with the ungodly lineage of Cain to make sure that we understand what humanity is capable of apart from God.